Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Would you all please rise and join us in the pledge? Flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
of the United
Republic,
States of America,
which it
and
stands,
to the republic
one nation,
for which
under
it
God,
stands.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us again. This, of course, is our annual public budget hearing. And of course, we're doing things a little bit differently this year. Ordinarily, we would be live in front of you. And that's not the way it is this year. So based on the governor's rulings, we are doing it live via Zoom. And unfortunately, you will not be able to ask us questions live, but as we've been doing with the regular meetings, please feel free to email a question either to the superintendent or to the board, and whoever you emailed will get back to you with an answer. So of course, this is a very strange process that we've gone through this year, doing the meetings virtually, but even more than that, we are proceeding with some serious unknowns. As I think everybody knows, the state has suffered serious revenue shortfalls and will continue to do so. And the governor has not put out, well, they had passed a final budget, but since then, the governor has said that he could withhold as much as 20% of state aid. And he seems to be waiting to find out if the federal government is going to come to the state's rescue. We'll see. So for now, the governor is pushing off his decision on how much he's going to cut state aid. And we are going ahead without that information. Fortunately, I guess going back to the Great Recession, the board had made some difficult choices, but over the past few years, we've really seen them pay off. And we are in a position, as you will hear in detail later from Mrs. Pilati, we are in a position to withstand this storm, at least for a couple of years, without having to make cuts to program. So I guess that's the good news in what is otherwise, a difficult time. In any case, with that said, I will now turn the microphone over to Mrs. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Geller. Mrs. Pilati, would you like to get started with our presentation? Thank you. Great. And thank you for joining us as we take this opportunity to district budget for the 2020-2021 school year. As I share each year, as we begin the process of developing a budget, we center our work around our mission statement and some guiding principles that support the idea that West Islip has 21st century vision that supports our students. We know that our community supports and values public education, so we have made choices as we crafted this budget that safeguard our programs for not only the upcoming school year, but for years to come. We know that there's more to education than just what happened in the classroom, and our choices reflect that in this budget. Research has shown that the basic skills of reading, writing, and mathematics are still the best foundation for continued learning and growth, but students now and in the future will also need the other 4 C's: coding, communications, creativity, and collaboration. So as we developed this budget, we kept the future in mind. And as we know that what we planned for this school year affects years far beyond 2020-2021, particularly in light of the ongoing challenges associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. The coronavirus pandemic has drastically changed the New York State budget outlook. The 2020-2021 enacted state budget was released originally on April 1st. And the district's foundation aid was frozen at 2019-20 levels. And that was on top of a year, coming off a year where the increase was less than 1%. The enacted budget includes a pandemic adjustment that is offset by the federal CARES restoration. The enacted budget authorizes the Division of Budget, the State Division of Budget, to assess and reduce allocations to school districts if state revenue comes in below budget or state expenditures exceed the budget based on 3 assessment periods: April 1st through 30th, May 1st through June 30th, and July 1 through December 31st. Introduction. We have not yet received any updates to our state aid based on that first assessment period of April 1st through April 30th, but we believe that to be forthcoming shortly. The governor has indicated that the scope of overall cuts could be as much as 20%, and we have made an effort to anticipate at least part of this reduction as we crafted this budget. Note that the entire process has changed a little bit, and the vote and the budget trustee election will be handled completely by absentee ballot this year. These are the projected average class sizes at the elementary level for the upcoming school year. Mrs. Pilati, I'm sorry if you could just forward. Terrific. They are consistent across the district, as you can see, and they reflect what we know to be best practices for kids. So, budget preparation is not an easy task, and over the last few months, the administrative team has spent countless hours working with the Board of Education to consider needs, both short and long-term, district building and department goals, and public feedback. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mrs. Pilati, who will give you a brief overview of that process and where we have landed with the actual budget. Mrs. Pilati?
Thank you, Mrs. Burns. Good evening. This slide and the next summarize some of the key items that are funded in our 2020-21 school budget. We are continuing with our replenishment cycle for smart boards in 2021. To support our ongoing technology initiative, we are continuing to upgrade our server infrastructure. This year, we began installing IP phones in classrooms, and the elementary and middle schools should be done by the summer. In 2021, we will be installing IP phones in every classroom at the high school. Next year, the district will cover the cost of any accidental breakage of a Chromebook through insurance. We are continuing with our replenishment cycle of desktop computers. Next year, we will be replacing the out-of-date Windows 7 desktop computers at the elementary and middle schools. We are expanding the options of career and technical education classes to our high school students. Some of the areas include early childhood education, marketing, business management, and accounting and finance. We are also adding a virtual enterprise class at the high school, which is a live in-school global business simulation for high school students. And in keeping with surrounding districts, next year, the cost associated with taking IB and AP exams will be included in the budget. We are also introducing an online athletic registration system, which will streamline registrations, boost compliance and safety, and eliminate repetitive paperwork for families. We will have intramurals at the elementary level next year. Also included in our budget are software subscriptions that will be provided to all secondary band, chorus, and orchestra students. We will continue to keep all band and orchestra instruments on a replenishment cycle. We will continue to provide professional development next year to all staff. And this year, we were able to renovate the Udall Middle School Family and Consumer Science Room. So next year in the 2021 budget, we will be renovating the Beach Middle School Family and Consumer Science Room. We will be replacing the vanities and sinks at Okonock Elementary School. And another item included in our budget for next year is the increased coverage by security guards for after school hours. Some of the equipment that we have included is a security car, a van, and a pickup truck for our maintenance department. On the absentee ballots that residents will receive this week in the mail, the first proposition will be for the 2020-21 school budget. Residents will also get to vote on the election of 2 Board of Education trustee seats. We have 3 candidates running for 2 seats. This is a glance at our overall budget. Our overall budget is decreasing by 1.5 million or 1.19% over the prior year. Our projected budget for 2021 is $124,406,746. New York state law requires that we classify our expenditure budget into 3 parts: program, administrative, and capital. The program component consists of all instructional related expenses, including special education, extracurricular activities, sports, and transportation. This represents 74.42% of our total budget. So the majority of our dollars are spent on program and instruction. The administrative component consists of all administrative expenses, which include school board expenses and most legal fees. This represents 10.82% of the budget. And lastly, our capital component consists of expenses related to school building operations, maintenance, and any debt-related costs. This represents 14.76% of our total budget. We calculated the district's tax levy, which was the first step in our budget process, really, or our budget formula, back in February. And our formula was provided to us by the Office of the State Comptroller. And we came up with a restricted tax levy for 2020-21 of $87,223,610. That's a 2.01% increase over the prior year. Our restricted levy was submitted to the Office of the State Comptroller at the end of February, right before our deadline of March 1st. In order to calculate the actual tax rate for next year for homeowners, we would need 3 different numbers. And school districts only provide one of those numbers, which is the tax levy, which we know we have set for next year at 87 million. Unfortunately, we don't receive any final assessment values or homestead percentages from the town of Islip until the fall. Therefore, we can provide residents with an average increase based on an average assessed home in West Islip of 45,000 and using prior year assessed values and prior year percentages. So the tax increase over the prior year for an average assessed home is $172.48 or 2.01%. This is just under $15 per month. The district also provides instruction on how to calculate your own property tax increase, which is in our budget newsletter, which will be available on the district's website this year. This is a summary of the entire budget formula. We first start off with our restricted tax levy, which we're projecting a 2.01% increase. Then we have to add in our projected state aid, which Mrs. Burns had already discussed, and Mr. Geller, that we are looking at a significant decrease. And part of the reason is we are not sure what our actual decrease in state aid will be for next year because there are 3 different measurement periods. So right now we took 10% out of our foundation aid. So overall, our state aid is projected to decrease 11.8% for next year. We then have to add in any expected revenues we expect to receive for next year. We are projecting this to decrease by almost 11%. We also have to add in any amounts that are appropriated from reserves. And again, next year we're projecting to appropriate from reserves 1.3 million if the need arises. And the last part of the formula is to add in what our appropriated fund balance is, which will increase by $100,000 for next year. So the end result is your expenditure budget. For 2021, our expenditure budget is expected to decrease by 1.19%. We provide several informational items to our residents related to the budget. The information notice, or what's commonly called the 6-day budget notice, is mailed to all district homes the week before the budget vote. Our annual budget newsletter will be available on the district website. Finally, we put together budget books that include the entire proposed expenditure and revenue budget, the property tax report card, the salary disclosure notice, the schools report card, the fiscal accountability statement, and the local government exemption impact report. All of this information is already available on the district's website, and there is a budget book in the main office. Typically, we have them available at the public library and every main office of every building, but as schools are closed right now, we have it just in the district's main office and our website. And this is our revised timeline. As you can see, This was our last public budget hearing, and the only thing we have left is our annual vote, which will take place on June 9th by absentee ballot only. All absentee ballots were actually mailed out this past Friday, May 22nd, and they must be received by the Office of the District Clerk by 5 p.m. on June 9th, which is a Tuesday, which is the date of our budget vote. Any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Pilati. I would like to share with the public that the PTA will be hosting a Meet the Candidate Night on Thursday. They will be recording this session at 8 o'clock in the evening with the 3 candidates, Mr. McGinnis, Mr. Mahalik, and Mr. Tussey. And then that video will be posted on the PTA website.
Did they give an indication of when it would be posted? Obviously
Immediately
some-
following Mr. Geller.
Okay, thank you.
I seems to have lost my video here, so there we go. Immediately following the recording, they plan to post it on their website.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if nobody in the meeting has any other questions, again, for the public watching, if you do have questions, please email either the superintendent or the board. You can find all of our email addresses on the website, and we will be sure to get back to you as soon as we can. But thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and be safe and be well. Good night.